This is Vic Dorfman from Just Record It, and in this onboarding video I'm going to walk you through how we use Google Drive for organizing all of our team paraphernalia, and basically we use it as our one-stop shop for file sharing, collaboration, downloading, and uploading. In fact, what I've done with several clients and what we've done in our own business is we've actually moved away from all other platforms like Dropbox, Amazon S3, Box, and all of these competitors basically, and we've just focused everything and put everything in Google Drive, and the result has actually been fantastic. And I've actually tested download speeds between, for example, Drive and Dropbox, and found that Drive is actually faster, at least if you're downloading from Thailand where I'm based. And for example, with videos, if we upload a video to Drive, you can watch the entire video without actually downloading it, and it loads in a player, in a YouTube-like player, whereas with Dropbox, you get a 15-minute preview, otherwise you have to download the file. But I'm not here to shit all over Dropbox. The point is that we use Drive for our sort of central business hub organization, as do many other teams. And the other thing, of course, is that it integrates with a lot of other apps that you probably use in your business. And notably, in our case, is we use the Snagit Chrome extension, which I'm mousing over right now here in the upper right-hand corner, to take our screenshots, which is huge for everything basically in our business, but specifically, we take a lot of screenshots and place them in our documentation, which I'll show you in just a second how that works. Now, first of all, here's your Drive, or here's our Drive folder. Yours will look differently, of course, and you can organize it just like you can organize things within your computer by name or by the last date it was modified, file size, etc. I'm just going to organize it alphabetically, and you can see I kind of have a lot of different stuff here, but our main business folder, okay, is our Just Record It folder, and you can see that we have a number of subfolders here. Now the idea when you're thinking about how to organize this, and I actually just did a call yesterday with a gentleman, and we sort of talked about how to organize things, and the idea that you want to have as few sort of lingering files that aren't in a specific folder as possible. So here you can see that we're in the root folder, which is Just Record It, and we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 files that are sitting outside of any other more specific folder, and in general you want to avoid this, but if it's just a few files, it's not a big deal. But as a habit, certainly you want to organize things as specifically as possible. So for example, you can see here that we have a standard operating procedures, or an SOPs folder, and every business should have an SOPs folder in their Google Drive account. Okay, and if we click on this, this is of course where we organize our standard operating procedures. Now, a few things. First of all, your SOPs are going to be broken down, depending on your business model and the kind of service or product you're providing, into various subfolders. Now, the first of those subfolders that you definitely want to create is you want to create a core SOPs folder. Okay, and this is where you're going to place the standard operating procedures that everybody in your business, that apply to everybody in your business, and that are sort of independent of the actual nature of your business. So for example, you can see here that we have a how to document stuff SOP. And let me go ahead and open that up so you can see it. Okay, so this is the SOP on how to create SOPs. And this isn't a trivial detail, by the way, because if you want your SOPs to be usable, if you want them to come out consistent, and to be, in other words, to be useful to the people who are actually following them, then they have to be written well to begin with. Okay, and that begins with an SOP on how to create SOPs. Okay, and you can see how many pages is this. This is an 11-page SOP, And this is actually a good opportunity for me to demonstrate the way that we use the Snagit screenshot tool in conjunction with Drive. And the reason that we use Snagit to begin with is because it integrates with Drive and integrates with our YouTube account. So we can make videos, we can take screenshots, and we can make animated GIFs out of short videos. So for example, if we go to the very end of this SOP, and let's go ahead and just take a random screenshot, and we'll say, take a screenshot of the whole screen. Okay. And we'll name the image Vic. Okay. Add a little red arrow indicating something important. Okay, and then you can see that we can either download the image or we can copy the link to the image. But if you're embedding the screenshot directly into an SOP, then you don't need to actually do either of these things. What you would do is you would head back to your document and you would click on Insert, Image. Then you would go to Google Drive, Recent, and you can see that the most recent image appears here, which is the screenshot that we just took. Okay, and then you click Insert, and boom, it's inserted directly into the SOP. Now, can you see how this would be so much more convenient and time-saving than taking a screenshot, visiting the URL of the screenshot, downloading the screenshot, looking for it on your computer, and then inserting it, and then clogging up your computer with all of these files? None of that is necessary when you're using Snagit in conjunction with Drive and Google Docs. And by the way, this plays into a larger philosophy of keeping all of your important business components in as few places as possible, preferably one. And Drive is kind of that place. And so therefore, we select the tools that integrate most elegantly with this core solution of Drive for organizing a business. And again, I just want to reiterate that you don't necessarily have to use Drive or the tools that we're using, but you want it to be internally consistent and centralized, and in a way that your tools integrate with your other tools, and that it's super easy to use and kind of a no-brainer for your team, especially if they're new. Like, we could bring somebody on board today who isn't trained yet and give them this SOP, and they will be able to do exactly what I just showed you simply by following this SOP and following our how to take screenshots SOP as well. So that's sort of the power of this, especially as you scale and as you hire more people to your team. You're going to want, you're not going to be able to hop on Skype with each of your team members and walk them through and train them. No, you're going to show them this onboarding video. You're going to hand them SOPs, and if all of that stuff is done well, okay, then you won't need to do all of that Skype training, okay, or your project manager. They won't need to do all of that stuff because it's already baked into the onboarding process when you bring that person on your team. Now, another thing we can do here is we can actually make a video. Let me just show you how that works real quick, as long as we're talking about Snagit, because it is such an important part pretty much of any business that documents their processes. Okay, so let's go ahead and make a quick video. Say screen, entire screen, share. Okie dokie, then let's turn it off. Okay. And we will name the video Test. Okay, and you can see that it syncs with your Drive automatically. Now, here are our three options. We can create an animated GIF from this video, and this is limited to 20 seconds or less, I believe. And we can send the video to YouTube, which there's no time limit for that, or we can get the Google Drive link. In this case, I want to create an animated GIF and insert it into our SOP or insert it somewhere on a website. Okay, so we've made the GIF. We'll click grab link. But again, this is automatically uploaded, I should say, to your Drive account. So there's actually no need to download it, and there's no need to take the link. All you do is you go to insert image, okay, recent, test.gif, which is the GIF that we just made, insert it, and you can see that the GIF is automatically inserted into the documentation. So when would you use GIFs or videos instead of just screenshots? Anytime that your point is better explained or better illustrated by use of a GIF or a video than by a screenshot. Otherwise, you want to stick with text and screenshots. So, in my opinion, it isn't a good practice to make videos and GIFs just for the sake of making them. You only make them when whatever it is that you're explaining is better explained with a video or a GIF than can be done with screenshots. Otherwise, use screenshots. That's just my opinion. Okay, you don't have to do it that way. So that is how we use Snagit. And by the way, this is a free Chrome extension, but we also use the paid desktop version. Okay, because the Chrome extension is limited to taking screenshots and videos within the Chrome browser. You can't do it on your computer, on your desktop. You need the desktop app for that. Okay, so going back to the organization concept and the use of Drive, you can see that for any given folder, so let's actually go back to the standard operating procedures folder. If we right click on a folder, we get all these options. Like we can get the link to the folder, we can move the folder, we could start it, we could change the color, rename it, view details, you could download the folder, and of course you can delete the folder. But the most kind of practical thing is that you'll want to click on share. And you can see that here you get a link to the folder. So for example, I shared this folder publicly using our can view link. Okay. Now, however, if you make it can edit, then the people who you share this link with actually will be able to edit the files within that folder. So you want to use this very carefully. Okay. And there are more options like sharing it with specific people or making it public, etc., etc. Or in the case of your team members, what you want to do is you want to go to your root folder, which will be your actual business folder, and we'll click share. Okay, and you can see I've already shared it with our audio engineer Roland. Okay, but if I wanted to share it with somebody else, we could say, John Tiamat, okay, which is me. It's just an alternate email I use, and we'll give him can edit permission. Okay, so essentially he's an administrator and he can do all of the same stuff that you can. And depending on the role of the people you're sharing with and how much you trust them, etc., then you can vary their permissions. Now, another really cool thing is you can actually change who the folder belongs to, or who's the owner of the folder. Okay, so you can see here that Vic Dorfman, that's me, is the owner. Okay, but we can actually make it so that Roland is the owner or somebody else is the owner. So, for example, if you assemble a folder on behalf of a customer or a client, and then you want to share that folder with them or just simply give that folder to them, then you can just invite them, share it with them, make them the owner, and that's that. It's quite easy. Now, another thing is you'll probably be uploading a bunch of different files. And so let's say, for example, that, okay, so let's say that we go to HR. So we have a folder for HR, and we have roles like audio engineer, blogger, project manager, transcriptionist, etc. But let's say that I want to upload a file to the HR folder. All I have to do is click New, File Upload, okay, and then just select some file, any file, and it uploads, okay. And then And by the way, any files that you upload to a folder with a given set of permissions, those files inherit those permissions, which makes sense because if you've shared, your HR folder with your HR person, then any file or folder that you upload into HR should therefore automatically be shared with that same person. And the rest of this stuff is actually super self-explanatory. Now, some people prefer to have this kind of sidebar navigation menu, and you can see when I click on Drive, it unrolls the menu so you can sort of get a bird's eye overview of all of your files and folders, okay? As opposed to having to go through this breadcrumbs trail every time. Okay, so let's go back to our HR folder. Let's go ahead and delete that file that we just uploaded. Now, as I mentioned before, you want to always try to put things in a folder. So you don't want to have these files sort of just sitting around if it makes sense to sort of categorize them more granularly. So for example, I had a call with a representative from the top grading company, which is a hiring methodology. They sell a product as well, and they sell training. And I also took notes on another hiring methodology called the A method for hiring, which is a book that I read, and they also sell a product and trainings. Now, so in this case, I'm going to create a new folder and say hiring. Okay. Oops. I'm going to open that. And then I'm going to drag these files into the hiring folder. Okay. So now I know that whenever we're considering hiring a new team member or a contractor, that we need to follow our certain hiring methodology. Okay, so what would happen, okay, and what this would actually look like if you were doing it, is you would go into your business folder, then you would go to standard operating procedures, okay, and then you would have a folder called, let's say, HR, okay, which we should have that. You'd open that, and then you'd have an SOP in here. I'll just create one real quick. I'll show you how powerful this is and why this is such a beautiful little ecosystem for your business. Let's say that this is the hiring procedure. We'll call it hiring SOP. No, we'll call it the audio engineer hiring SOP. So this is exactly what the person doing the hiring, whether it's you or your project manager or your partner, whomever, this is the procedure that they would follow when prospecting and hiring for the audio engineer role or whatever role in your business, right? So in this case, we'd say 1, and this goes back to the way in which we write SOPs is very important, but we'll say 1, open the A method for hiring notes doc. And then what I would do is I would go back to the folder that we were just looking at, which is in the hiring HR folder, hiring, and here is my A method notes doc. I'm going to get the link for that, okay, and I'm going to copy that to my dashboard, and I'm going to paste it here, okay, and 2 would be something like follow the directions in that doc. 3, do a 15-minute call with your partner to discuss potential new hire. Okay, and so as you do all of the various tasks in your business, and by the way, this is a bit daunting. I'm not going to lie that as you're doing whatever it is you're doing on a day-to-day basis, of course you'd rather just do it than, stop every minute and write down and document the process. But I want you to think of it as an investment in your freedom when you do that, because what you're essentially doing is you're externalizing your expertise and writing down the step-by-step way that you do something. Maybe you've never thought about, like, okay, well, number 1, I do this, number 2, I do this. You've just been doing it intuitively, or maybe you don't even have a method that you've been following. You've just been kind of doing it willy-nilly or nilly-willy, whichever one it is, and this will force you to actually systemize and externalize your expertise in a way that another person who isn't you can follow day after day and still get the same result that you get, presumably. Okay? And so yeah, it's a pain in the ass to document what you're doing, but it is a habit that it is a valuable and good habit to instill not only in yourself but also in your team members. Because here's the thing: you have one audio engineer, let's say, and he quits. Well, the next person who comes in behind him, if there's no documentation in place, if there are no SOPs, if there's no onboarding videos for the various apps, then he's going to have to start from scratch. And then you and your team are going to have to siphon your time and resources in order to get that person up to speed. Whereas if you have these SOPs, if you have this organization in place, any question that this new hire can ask you possibly, you just point them to the appropriate folder, to the appropriate SOP, or to the appropriate video, because all of that documentation will say the same thing that you would say. You see? So it's already externalized the training, in a sense, and the role, the duties of a given role, including your own. So this is kind of the power of Google Drive and documentation and organization. Now, really important, here's another thing that maybe we didn't talk about. Now, if you're using Google Chrome, and most of you probably are, unless you're really crazy skeptical about Chrome and the NSA and security and all that kind of stuff, and you should be, but for practical business purposes, let's pretend like the government isn't watching and tracking everything we're doing, and that Chrome is perfectly secure and private, which it is not, but okay. Now, let's say you have a given file in your drive, okay, that you're looking for something. Now, if you're using Chrome in conjunction with Google Drive, here's a really, really neat time-saving trick. Now, I have a file in my drive called Rolodex, okay, which is a Rolodex of a curated list of contractors and teams to whom I can subcontract work, or whom I can refer a client of mine to. So what I do is I type drive, Rolodex. That's weird. Maybe I just type Rolodex. There we go. So I just type Rolodex, and it automatically auto-suggests the file. Okay, and if I click on it, okay, you can see that it brings up, takes me straight to my Rolodex. Likewise, if I want to go to my just recorded folder, I'll type drive just, and you can see that it automatically auto-suggests the just recorded folder. Click on that, and again, it takes us to directly to the, so you don't even need to open Drive and then like search for stuff and navigate all around. You can just type it directly into your URL box, and you might actually have to visit the file or folder in question a few times in order for the auto-populate feature to activate. But once you've sort of played around and gone in Google Drive a lot, then obviously, or for example, when we bring a new client on board, they go through a podcast intake process, and all of the data from the form that they submit is sent to a Google spreadsheet. So if I want to find that podcast intake form, I just type podcast intake, and you can see that it auto-suggests the URL. So you can see how Chrome and Snagit and Drive and YouTube, this whole little ecosystem, keeps all of your files and your folders and your permissions kind of in one place. And it really, really simplifies things. You can see that the only tabs I really have open are just record it, which is, okay, the file that we just created, and again, just record it, the drive folder. So let me just think if I've missed anything here. I think I've covered pretty much everything pertinent to using this. I will say also that for your business, you'll want to have a minimum of a folder for SOPs, okay, a folder for HR if you plan on bringing aboard additional team members and contractors, a folder for customers. Now, I'm not going to click on this because I don't want to necessarily reveal who we're working with, but inside the customers folder, we have a folder named after each customer. So for example, if I'm working with Jean-Luc Picard, then I'll have a folder named Jean-Luc Picard, and then I'll have a subfolder named Core Files, and I'll have all of his artwork for his podcast and his intro and outro, all of the stuff that doesn't change from episode to episode. It'll be in that folder. And then for each individual episode, we'll create an episodes folder, and then we'll say episode number 1, a folder for episode number 1, and episode number 2, a folder for episode number 2, and so on and so forth, so that it's very easy for you and your team members and even the customer, him or herself, to go into Drive and find exactly what you're looking for super, super quickly. Everything is nice and organized, nice and clean. There aren't files and folders on 2, 3, 4, 5 different platforms. Everything is all in one place. Okay, and so the corollary to all of that is that if you are using a bunch of different platforms, including your computer is a storage platform. And let me just show you what my computer looks like. If we go to my downloads folder, okay, you can see that I have like a book that I downloaded, some images, some music, a testimonial video somebody made for me, and then some zip files. I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. I have 15 files in my downloads folder. Now you should have seen this folder before. It was a mess. Okay, and when I cleaned it up and I moved everything to Google Drive into a personal folder, well, now I don't need to worry about my computer crashing or something like that happening, because if that happens, all of my stuff is in Drive. No problem. Same with my desktop. It's utterly clean. And I think I'm only using something like 15 gigabytes of storage, which makes your computer run faster, by the way. So the benefits of cleaning everything up and organizing it within Drive are very mirror or parallel the benefits of cleaning up your home. Okay, it's easier to move around. It's more pleasant to be in. It's more visually appealing. You feel like you're more productive. You have more space. You can breathe. It's exactly the same with using Drive, and this is why we love Drive so much. And by the way, it is super duper cheap. You can see I have 100 gigs of storage that I pay, I think, $3 a month for. So that's insane. And if you want a terabyte of storage, it's $10 a month. So it's pennies, basically. And you can see here, finally, last thing I'll mention is that there's an app for Mac and for PC and for your smartphone to connect Drive and sync files directly via the application. I don't really use that because I always have Drive open anyway, so I can just sort of drag a file into Drive and sync it that way. But if you're on multiple devices and you want everything to be synced across, well, then just download the app and set it up and you're good to go. So if you have any questions about this video, if there's something that I should have covered but didn't, or there's something I could have explained more eloquently, please do let me know in the comments section or shoot me an email at hey@justrecord.it, and I'll do my best to help you out. Thank you very much.